They call it television's greatest rebel ride. The orange 1969 Dodge Charger, known as the General Lee, vaulted into the pop culture stratosphere by the Dukes of Hazzard. For decades, its roar, its gravity-defying jumps, and its Confederate battle flag painted roof felt like harmless fun, a symbol of high-octane Southern swagger, family loyalty, and epic car chase thrills. Until now, major networks have quietly pulled the Dukes of Hazzard from rotation, declaring the General Lee and its on-screen insignia unsuitable for modern primetime. The reason? The flag atop its roof is deemed a vestige of racism too charged for today's audiences. And no one is more furious than John Schneider, the actor who played Bo Duke and fell in love on screen with that rumbling steel, and who still owns an original General Lee replica. Here's what really happened, why the band matters, and what Schneider is vowing to do next. 1. How the General Lee became a TV icon. 1979 to 1985, the Dukes of Hazzard offered escapist fun. Cousins Bo, Schneider, and Luke Duke, Tom Wopat, outsmarting crooked politicians in rural Georgia. Central to every episode, their General Lee, orange-painted Charger, horn bellowing YHA, and roof sporting the Confederate battle flag. To many viewers then, the flag simply evoked Southern pride. No deeper thought needed. Schools aired summer reruns, kids built model kits, and the Charger's signature jump sealed a legacy that still sells out at car shows. 2. Changing times, changing tolerance. Flash forward to 2021 and beyond. A wave of re-examination of Confederate symbols across America. Statues toppled, flags removed from public spaces, tougher broadcast standards. Networks, including TBS, CMT, and syndicated rerun blocks, quietly yanked the Dukes of Hazzard from schedules, citing concerns that the car's imagery glorifies a painful legacy. Media insiders. Advertisers didn't want any association with Confederate flags. We had to choose between ratings and brand safety, and the brand couldn't risk it. 3. John Schneider's fierce backlash. In a blistering social media video, Schneider called the ban a paralyzing overreaction. He argued that for him, the General Lee was never about oppression. It was about childhood wonder and joyrides across dusty backroads. You're erasing memories, he said. The flag on that car was a prop, nothing more. Rip it from the show and you lose half its soul. He's demanding networks restore reruns uncut, threatening legal action under historic preservation clauses he claims apply to iconic works of art. 4. The broader debate. Art versus offense. Supporters of the ban argue that Confederate symbols, no matter the intent, re-traumatize Black viewers and normalize a painful chapter in American history. Opponents counter that the Dukes of Hazzard is a fictional comedy action series, and cartoonish car stunts shouldn't be conflated with real-world hate. Cultural critics note this clash epitomizes today's cancel culture debate. When does reevaluation cross into erasure? 5. What's next for the General Lee? Schneider hints at a streaming platform deal that would host an unedited, contextualized version of the series, complete with intros by historians explaining the flag's background. Collectors report record-high bids for original General Lee cars at auction. If TV won't air it, fans will pay big to own it. Merchandise sellers rush to reprint t-shirts, models, and posters, ambiguously omitting or spotlighting the flag depending on their market. 6. Why this matters beyond a TV show. The General Lee's ban forces us to ask, can we separate a creative work's nostalgic heart from the symbols it employs? For John Schneider, it's about preserving childhood wonder. For networks, it's about social responsibility and brand safety. For viewers, it's a test of whether even lighthearted entertainment can, and should, be re-examined through the lens of history. As the debate rages, the General Lee sits in garages and private collections, still gleaming, still charged with the roar of an engine and the echoes of YHA. Whether it'll escape this latest roadblock intact depends on how we balance remembrance and responsibility. In the words of Bo Duke himself, well, they can take our show off the air, but they'll never mute this engine's roar. What do you think? Should the Dukes of Hazzard and the General Lee be allowed to leap across screens uncut, or is it time to retire that emblem of Southern rebellion once and for all? Here's the second act. A closer look at the TV pullout, the internal push and shove at the networks, and John Schneider's escalating stand. Within days of last summer's social justice reckoning, network executives quietly convened Dukes emergency meetings. Senior programmers at TBS, CMT, and several major syndicators reviewed 1979 to 85 episode libraries alongside audience testing data and advertiser feedback. What began as offhand notes about Confederate flags on internal call sheets snowballed into three core concerns: brand safety, advertisers selling mass-market grocery items, auto parts, and financial services grew jittery at even a fleeting flag shot. One agency rep told insiders, "We can't risk 30 seconds of controversy." Negative social media lit up instantly. Viewer research focus groups of mixed demographics admitted that, even as kids, many had enjoyed car stunts without thinking about the flag. Today, however, younger audiences described the symbol as offensive or intimidating, and a majority said they'd switch channels mid-episode. Cultural Responsibility Network presidents, sensitive to shareholder directives on diversity and inclusion, figured that a blanket pullout would draw less heat than awkward bleep and crop edits. The conclusion: better to shelve the show entirely than to air half-censored episodes. Early leaks of these deliberations prompted a terse public statement from CMT. "We've decided to retire the Dukes of Hazzard from our lineup. While we recognize its place in TV history, we feel its imagery no longer aligns with our brand values." TBS and local syndicators followed suit in rapid succession, removing reruns from schedules and on-demand libraries. That chain reaction ignited John Schneider's fury. In an uncharacteristically raw Instagram live, he railed at the ban, calling it cultural amnesia and collective overkill. Clips from his 10-minute rant spread within hours, Schneider pacing his Tennessee home, flanked by vintage General Lee memorabilia, decrying the erasure of Lee Duke's legacy. He accused networks of pandering to cancel culture, argued that the battle flag was equivalent to a team logo, and threatened legal action under the Copyright Act's moral rights provisions, insisting the General Lee qualified as protected artwork. Meanwhile, a handful of cable affiliates quietly experimented with contextualized airings, episodes prefaced by on-screen disclaimers and accompanied by short history segments explaining the origins of the Confederate flag. But corporate lawyers balked at potential liabilities, citing ambiguous state laws and worries over boycotted ad dollars. One veteran programming director laughed, "Until someone figures out how to monetize apologies, it's easier to just pull the plug." Backstage, John Schneider's camp prepared a two-pronged counteroffensive: a public petition demanding unedited reruns, and private overtures to streaming services willing to host the show with curator-led introductions. Industry whispers say Schneider has met with executives at a major SVOD platform, pitching a package that pairs every episode with historian commentary, veteran cast interviews on race and reconciliation, and an open-forum Q&A. If successful, he'll make the Dukes unavailable on traditional TV but available as a restored, annotated edition online, an approach he insists preserves the art without dishonoring the past. As the General Lee fades from broadcast TV, the battle lines are clear: networks committed to brand prudence and evolving viewer sentiment versus a cultural icon determined to keep his rebel ride alive, flags and all. Section 3 will explore the broader debate over Confederate imagery in entertainment and whether other classic shows face the same fate. The debate over the General Lee's band ties into a much larger reckoning with Confederate iconography across entertainment, and it's sparking questions about whether other beloved shows will meet the same fate. 1. From Gone with the Wind to Birth of a Nation, HBO Max's 2020 decision to pull Gone with the Wind from its service, then restore it with a historical introduction, set a high-profile precedent. Networks and streamers hedged their bets by contextualizing the film's portrayal of slavery and the Confederacy rather than airing it unexamined. D. W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, 1915, has never enjoyed comfortable broadcast life. Scholarly annotations and museum screenings are the only way most audiences see it today. Its racist depictions and the stature of its filmmaking craft make for a fraught combination. 2. Television's Confederate cameos. The Andy Griffith Show spin-offs and rural sitcoms occasionally flashed Confederate flags in passing, but none built a core identity around the emblem. That made pruning them relatively easy. Editors simply crop wide shots or obscure peripheral props. By contrast, the General Lee's roof flag was central to the Dukes of Hazzard brand. Networks feared that trimming or blacking out the flag on every shot would be so jarring that it would alienate viewers even more than shelving the show altogether. 3. NASCAR and flag policy as cultural bellwethers. After years of tolerating Confederate flags at races, often draped over tailgates and waving in fan stands, NASCAR banned the symbol from all sanctioned events in mid-2020. Executives cited their goal to foster a more inclusive environment and avoid the appearance of condoning divisive iconography. That move foreshadowed the TV network's shift. If a live spectator sport felt compelled to ban a symbol once deemed harmless, a scripted show built entirely on that symbol stood little chance of survival in primetime. 4. Arguments for and against removal pro-removal. Harmful legacy. Critics point out that even if audiences once viewed the flag as mere Southern flair, it remains inextricably linked to slavery, segregation, and white supremacy. Airing it unaltered perpetuates those associations, whether intended or not. Evolving viewers, younger generations, especially viewers of color, report feeling uncomfortable or hurt by the flag's casual presence. Networks must serve diverse audiences, not just nostalgic ones. Against removal. Historical context. Defenders argue that works like The Dukes of Hazzard are artifacts of their time. Rather than erase them, we should present them alongside expert commentary that explains the evolving symbolism. Slippery slope. Opponents warn that sanctioning one kind of symbol removal opens the door to censoring other problematic content, gender stereotypes, dated language, or violence, that some modern viewers find offensive. 5. Other franchises on the hot seat, Hee-Haw and Mayberry RFD, have Confederate flag bearing set pieces in early episodes. While seldom central, some stations have quietly edited those scenes out of syndication. Classic westerns like Gunsmoke and Bonanza occasionally featured Confederate veterans among their guest characters. Producers are now evaluating whether to add trigger warnings or remove certain storylines when streaming. Reality series filmed in the Deep South, Cops, Swamp People, even Duck Dynasty, face similar scrutiny. Their incidental flag sightings and cast members' personal social media posts have led to calls for content warnings or selective pullouts. 6. Where do we draw the line? Cultural critics point out that every era produces shows that clash with future sensibilities. All in the Family, once groundbreaking for tackling race and politics with Archie Bunker's bigotry, now feels uncomfortably close to real-time harassment. Yet it survives syndication with a contextual tag. The challenge for networks is consistency. If The Dukes of Hazzard is banned, should every show with a Confederate uniform, rebel flag quilt, or off-screen porch heritage prop also be yanked? Or is the General Lee's outright icon status unique enough to warrant special treatment? 7. The path forward. Contextualization versus erasure. John Schneider's proposal to package The Dukes of Hazzard as a streaming series with historian intros and open forum discussions mirrors what Warner Brothers did with Looney Tunes and Huckleberry Finn. Both kept original content intact, but framed it with historical commentary. Media scholars argue that true understanding comes not from hiding offensive imagery, but from confronting it head-on with critical tools. They advocate for optional deep dive modes on streaming platforms where episodes can be supplemented with expert insights on race, culture, and historical change. This broader debate shows that the General Lee's ban is not an isolated incident, but part of an industry-wide reassessment of how we handle entertainment legacies that carry problematic symbols. Whether networks embrace contextualization or choose erasure, one thing is clear. The conversation around Confederate imagery in pop culture has shifted irreversibly. 5. Schneider's legal gambit and streaming strategy. John Schneider wasn't bluffing when he threatened legal action. His team reviewed the Copyright Act's moral rights provisions, rarely invoked in U.S. courts, but nonetheless a potential lever for protecting artistic integrity. They argue that the General Lee's design, including the battle flag, is part of a copyrighted dramatic work, and that any forced removal or alteration constitutes diminution of the work's artistic value. In practice, mounting a lawsuit against networks and syndicators could be costly and uncertain. But Schneider's real goal may be to force a settlement or at least open serious negotiations over editorial context. Parallel to the legal posturing, Schneider pitched a comprehensive digital package to a leading SVOD platform. His vision: every season of the Dukes of Hazzard hosted as an annotated edition, with episode-by-episode intros by a panel of historians, civil rights scholars, and even former cast members reflecting on the show's cultural footprint. He secured interest from at least 2 services willing to take it on as a flagship heritage series. One potential partner proposed a 3-tiered viewing experience: original uncut, the complete episodes preserved in archival form, historian's cut, the show interspersed with short academic commentaries, family mode, episodes edited to remove the flag. Focusing solely on the Duke family's exploits, this model would satisfy a broad audience spectrum: nostalgists, educators, and parents, while generating fresh marketing angles and subscription revenue. Schneider's camp whispers of revenue-sharing deals that could dwarf the residuals he currently earns from DVD sales and limited merch licensing. 6. Fan and collector backlash. As news of the band spread, collector circles lit up with activity. Auctions for General Lee replicas surged, with pristine models fetching upwards of 6 figures. One original series car, owned by a private collector in Georgia, recently traded hands for $250,000, more than double its pre-ban value. Online forums exploded with debate. Some buyers lamented the car's politicization, while others viewed ownership as a form of cultural resistance. One prominent forum moderator even launched a Paris to Panhandle run, a cross-country meetup for General Lee enthusiasts, complete with road rallies and charity fundraisers. Attendance soared from a few dozen cars to hundreds, all sporting that iconic orange paint and rebel flag roof. Meanwhile, grassroots petitions accumulated more than 150,000 signatures demanding the show's reinstatement and nationwide syndication. Local TV stations in 5 states reportedly considered resurrecting hometown airings, and censored, if they could secure independent advertisers willing to underwrite potential backlash. That small market strategy skirted national corporate policies and banked on local loyalty to the Dukes brand. 7. Advertiser and network countermoves. Advertisers weren't idle spectators. A coalition of national brands, retail chains, auto insurers, home improvement outlets, emailed networks to stress that brand safety concerns ran deeper than a single series. Yet a handful of smaller sponsors, particularly regional outdoor equipment suppliers, quietly signaled openness to sponsor a contextualized Dukes block, seeing value in reaching core fans. Some cable affiliates experimented with split feeds. One version carried the battle flag for legacy subscribers, while a second flag-free feed targeted general audience viewers. However, the logistical complexity and cost of dual encoding proved too burdensome for most operations, and the experiments quietly faded. 8. Cultural impact and next steps. With primetime reruns shelved and streaming deals in negotiation, the Dukes of Hazzard now occupies a unique position. It's both a casualty of iconography's evolving meaning and a test case for media libraries grappling with contested content. Schneider's annotated edition proposal may set a new standard. Rather than erase problematic symbols, embrace them as teaching moments. If his streaming strategy succeeds, other legacy shows, with controversial 1970s sitcom stereotypes, Cold War-era scare tactics, or dated political jokes, might follow suit, each paired with expert framing that illuminates historical context. In parallel, cultural institutions are watching closely. The Smithsonian's Media History Division is in early talks to host a Duke Nation exhibition, complete with original costumes, stunt footage, and interactive kiosks where visitors decide whether to flag or no flag each scene. The museum's curators see the Dukes debate as emblematic of broader struggles over public memory, symbolism, and the power of entertainment to shape collective values. As John Schneider's campaign gathers momentum, the story of the General Lee enters its next chapter. Networks must weigh brand risk against cultural preservation. Streaming platforms must decide whether to champion contextualized archives, and audiences must confront their own nostalgia. Above all, the question looms: can we honor the irrepressible spirit of Bo and Luke Duke while acknowledging the flag's divisive legacy? The answer may define not only the fate of one show, but how we steward our entire television heritage. As the dust settles on broadcast television and streaming negotiations intensify, John Schneider has shifted into overdrive to ensure that General Lee's legacy endures on his own terms. Over the past month, he's crisscrossed Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Nashville, meeting with top executives at 3 major SVOD platforms. His pitch: a multi-platform release that preserves the original episodes intact, but enriches each with custom Duke dialogues, intros, and epilogues filmed by Schneider himself, cast reunions, historian roundtables, and optional flag-aware viewer toggles. One executive described the proposal as part heritage documentary, part fan celebration, part social responsibility experiment. Far from a simple rant on Instagram, this is a meticulously engineered media offering, and Schneider believes it can reshape how legacy television is handled industry-wide. Central to his strategy is the production of 150 news segments, 2 to 4 minutes each, that will frame contentious scenes in historical context. Schneider has already begun filming in studio backlots, seated at a replica Duke mansion porch, addressing the camera as Bo Duke would, but with gravity and candor. He recounts why the flag was chosen by the show's creators, how it symbolized Old South bravado in the 1970s, and why mutual respect must now temper nostalgia. Then he introduces next the historian or former cast member. Tom Wopat recalls on-set camaraderie and the absence of ill intent. Catherine Bach speaks about Southern heritage and evolving awareness. Political scholar Dr. Marcia Green talks through the flag's contested meanings today. Each segment ends with Schneider offering personal reflections. We made a choice then. Now let's learn from it together. Meanwhile, fan-driven events have proliferated. The Paris to Panhandle Run grew into a multi-day road rally, beginning at Schneider's family farm in Louisiana and culminating with a charity car show in Panama City Beach. Organizers report more than 500 General Lee replicas in attendance, with proceeds funding local African-American heritage museums. Schneider, in attendance for the first 2 days, autographed hoods and shared rides in the lead car, underscoring that the rally is as much about community reconciliation as about horsepower. On the collectibles front, original General Lee cars and replica kits have soared in value. One unrestored series vehicle fetched $300,000 at auction last week, thanks in part to a bidding war kicked off by Schneider's social media activism. Yet rather than pocket the gains, he's launched the Duke Legacy Fund, dedicating a portion of memorabilia sales to educational programs that explore the Civil War's causes and consequences. His team has already distributed $50,000 in grants to Georgia and Virginia historical societies to develop inclusive curricula on Southern history. Schneider's legal gambit has also taken shape behind the scenes. His attorneys filed preliminary notices of intent under the Visual Artists' Rights Act, VARA, asserting moral rights over the Charger's design and the flag-bearing roof as critical components of the dramatic work. While VARA claims rarely succeed in U.S. courts, the mere filing has earned Schneider a seat at the negotiating table. Sources say networks are now more receptive to compromise, offering limited licensing fees in exchange for Schneider's cooperation on contextualized airings. One insider quipped, "They'd rather pay Bo Duke than risk him going to court." In parallel, a consortium of cultural institutions, including the Smithsonian and the Museum of the Confederacy, has opened discussions with Schneider on a touring exhibit titled Charged Symbolism: The General Lee and American Memory. The exhibit would display an original 1969 Charger alongside wartime artifacts and multimedia installations exploring how popular culture borrows from, and sometimes sanitizes, history. Schneider has earmarked a chunk of his advocacy royalties to underwrite the project, insisting that the General Lee has a story far richer than any single iconography. Streaming partners see Schneider's annotated edition model as a test case. If successful, other legacy shows, All in the Family, with its Archie Bunker bigotry, or M*A*S*H, with its Cold War references, could receive similar treatment. Uncut episodes interspersed with scholarly context and cast reminiscences. Networks are watching closely. One senior programmer observed, "We're at an inflection point. Do we cage classic content behind blunt censorship, Or do we unlock its educational potential with smart framing? Schneider's doing the latter on his own dime. Yet not all cast members share Schneider's fervor. Tom Wopat has expressed cautious support. "I want the show seen, but I don't want it rolled out like sanitized history class." Catherine Bach has been more reserved, noting that some fans just want to watch Bo and Luke dodge the law without a history lesson. These differing perspectives underscore that even within Duke Nation, consensus is elusive. Schneider's challenge is uniting disparate voices, veteran actors, purists, progressives, around a single solution. At fan conventions, Schneider has taken it upon himself to moderate flag talk panels, where audiences of all ages discuss what the symbol means to them. He frames each session with a simple ethos: hear each other out, then decide what legacy you want to preserve. These sessions, now spanning 7 major pop culture expos, draw hundreds of attendees eager to engage rather than condemn, a rare example of civil discourse in a polarized era. With streaming deals on the horizon, legal filings in place, exhibitions in development, and fan events rolling out nationwide, Schneider's campaign transcends mere nostalgia. It's a blueprint for how intellectual property owners can steward their work through evolving social values. If he succeeds, the Dukes of Hazzard may return to our screens not as a relic of unexamined amusement, but as a pioneering model of responsible media preservation, one that honors its past while inviting critical reflection. The streaming deal is officially inked. Starting next month, subscribers will find the Dukes of Hazzard, Flag-Aware Edition, live on one of the major SVOD platforms. Every episode will play uncut, but before the opening credits, Schneider himself appears on-screen in full Bo Duke attire. He walks viewers through the significance of the General Lee's paint scheme and flag motif, then introduces the historian segment that follows the act's climactic card jump. At the episode's end, viewers can choose whether to watch a closing reflection or dive straight into the next adventure. This user-driven model offers a level of agency unprecedented in vintage television releases, putting the audience in control of context and content. Behind the scenes, engineering teams at the platform have built the toggle feature that lets households switch between original, flag-free, and Duke Dialogues modes at will. Data analysts will track which versions resonate most with different demographics. Baby boomers may stick to the unedited classic, while younger viewers lean into the academic framing. Early test groups respond positively. They appreciate having the option to learn about the show's historical blind spots without losing the excitement of Bo and Luke's stunts. For the first time, a legacy series can satisfy both nostalgic impulses and modern sensibilities within a single product. Other rights holders are watching closely. Agents representing series like All in the Family and Green Acres have already reached out, inquiring about licensing the same format for shows that feature outdated language or cultural stereotypes. Film studios are exploring whether classics like Gone with the Wind could employ this toggle system, pairing the uncut feature with historian essays and director commentary on societal progress since release. Schneider's project has become a proof of concept for contextual preservation. You don't have to erase your past to understand it better. Critics remain divided. Some decry the 3-channel approach as diluting art with academic padding. They worry that viewers seeking pure escapism will find the user interface too cumbersome. Others praise it as a template for responsible media stewardship. In trade publications, editorials argue that content owners must embrace innovation or face losing entire catalogs to permanent shelving. The Duke's rollout will be a high-profile test. If engagement and subscription numbers spike, it will validate Schneider's thesis that context can coexist with classics rather than compete against them. Meanwhile, the touring Charged Symbolism exhibit firmed up its schedule. Starting next spring, it will open at the Smithsonian's American History Museum and then travel to regional partners in the Southeast. Visitors will see the original screen-used charger alongside interactive displays that let them overlay digital flags on virtual vehicles, testing their emotional responses. Oral history stations will archive community perspectives on the flag's meaning across decades. Schneider's curated memorabilia, helmets, scripts, and behind-the-scenes photos will spotlight the tension between entertainment and heritage, inviting open dialogue rather than silent condemnation. On the fan front, the revived rally culture persists. This past weekend, more than 600 painted chargers converged at the first official reconcile with the General Lee gathering. Organizers designed the event around panel discussions on regional history, followed by celebratory convoy drives through small southern towns. Local leaders have praised the economic boost and the healing potential of these road trips. Schneider himself joined the convoy for the opening miles, cheering as engines roared in collective solidarity rather than defiance. Perhaps the most enduring change is in how networks approach rerun acquisitions. Programming chiefs at major broadcast groups have begun requiring rights holders to provide contextual materials for any show containing period-sensitive content. Fine print in future syndication contracts now stipulates that flags, racial epithets, and dated language trigger supplemental segments or on-screen disclaimers. This policy shift stems directly from the Dukes controversy and Schneider's negotiating leverage. The industry consensus is morphing from ad hoc edits to structured frameworks, ensuring legacy content survives rather than vanishes. In the end, John Schneider's battle for the General Lee is about more than a television car or a flag painted on metal. It's a story of how creators, rights holders, and audiences can collaborate to honor the spirit of beloved entertainment while acknowledging its complicated heritage. As the first episodes of the Flag-Aware edition post to streaming platforms, millions of viewers will decide how they want to experience the Dukes of Hazzard: unfiltered thrills, sanitized escapism, or enriched understanding. The choice itself becomes the true legacy of the Duke brothers, reminding us all that freedom, at its heart, is the power to choose how we remember.